Hey guys, so today we're going to be doing a full day wear test with the Chantecaille Future Skin Foundation. This is their oil-free gel foundation. This is not new at all, but I love Chantecaille and I've always been curious about this foundation, but I just never really, I just never put the bullet. I posed the question to you guys, whether or not you would like to see a review, even though this is not a new product. And so many of you wanted me to do a review. So that's what we're here doing. So I wanted to get this foundation and get this video up fairly quickly because what kind of attracted me to this foundation again now is the fact that it's a gel foundation and it just seems like the perfect thing for the warmer months. So let's go ahead and get started. For those of you that are new here, welcome first of all, but I just want to mention that I have very dry, eczema prone, sensitive type of skin. My skin isn't actually that sensitive, it's just very, very picky. Whatever ingredients it doesn't like, it just doesn't like. So that's what we're dealing with. I'm 45, I'll actually be 46 in a couple of months. I'm so excited. So I have middle-aged skin concerns, and my dry skin is not from aging. My dry skin, I've always had dry skin. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So this is the box that it comes in, and it comes in a little jar, and this is what the jar looks like. So the color that I got is Camomile, and I wear the shade Vanilla in their Just Skin tinted moisturizer, and I was going to just go ahead and get that. But actually one of you commented that you thought the vanilla pulled a little bit pink. I don't know if that was your experience or something you had heard, but I had that kind of, swimming around in my mind. So anyway, after kind of playing around with a bunch of different shades, I decided to go with Chamomile, which is technically a lighter shade, but it's in the warmer category. So vanilla kind of falls in the neutral category, even though I do feel like in this foundation, the vanilla pulled a little bit pink. I do agree with my viewer that made that comment. It did pull a little bit towards the cooler side. So I decided to go with the Chamomile, and it didn't look quite this warm in store. So I am a little bit nervous, but if I have to pick between warmer or cooler for my skin tone, I prefer warmer. So this is a 1 ounce jar. So here's like the little protective lid there. It says, I don't know if you guys can see it, it says do not discard, which is very handy because I do usually toss these things away. But I think if you do discard this little lid, this gets very, very messy because this is a gel foundation, so it's fairly loose in there, and this kind of keeps it under control. So this does retail for $78 and there are 14 different shades. So just a quick word about the ingredients. There's aloe, chamomile, and arnica to help soothe the skin. Rosemary, green tea, and rice bran are strong antioxidants. Seaweed cleanses, helping to maintain optimal oil balance. It's an adjustable coverage from medium to full. It says to apply with foundation and mask brush or fingertips. So I'm going to go ahead and apply with the brush, which happens to be my kind of tool of choice. And they even recommend, if you want like a sheer radiant glow, to add in some oil or some liquid highlighter. And they suggest their Liquid Lumiere, which is their highlighter that comes in the tube. I'm not going to do that because I do want to do this full day wear test just with this foundation by itself. So just want to let you know, I did put down some moisturizer. That's all I have on my skin. When I do these full day wear tests, I tend to get rid of the primer step in my routine because I just want to test the foundation and see how the foundation works all by itself. So let me go ahead and find a brush. Okay, so I'm going to start by dabbing some of this foundation onto my skin. And this definitely looks maybe a little bit too warm. Hopefully it'll blend out a little bit. And I've got my Tom Ford cream foundation brush here. I have such a disparity between my forehead skin and my jawline neck skin. I feel like this foundation is a better match for my forehead, which is much warmer, much deeper in skin tone. And then all along my cheeks here, my skin tone tends to be a lot cooler and a lot more pale. So I think this shade will work for me, but I feel like I would fall kind of between chamomile and vanilla. And ideally I would have gotten both and kind of mixed the two, but I think I'm definitely gonna have to just bronze up my neck here because it's pretty different, but I feel like this is a good match for the rest of my face. All right, so I'll continue applying it to this half of my face and we'll leave this side bare and we'll do like a quick comparison. All right, so if you guys have been with me for any amount of time and you've heard me talk about the Chantecaille Just Skin Tinted Moisturizer, that one I believe is supposed to have lighter coverage than this. And if you ever swatch these two foundations, that one definitely looks like it has lighter coverage. But I feel like when I apply it, because I remember trying this foundation on just like a little portion of my skin, and I thought, wow, that is a really, really light coverage. And I was talking to the woman that worked at the counter, and she was like, I know. She's like, I think it's really weird. The Just Skin Tinted Moisturizer, although by its name and I think by its description, it is supposed to have a lighter coverage than this. But when you put it on, I feel like it has a lighter coverage. Look how sheer that coverage is. And you saw how many dots I put around my face. I wasn't really shy with the application. I wasn't really trying to go for a light coverage. And I feel like this has a more sheer coverage than the Just Skin Tinted Moisturizer. But if you guys have tried both, let me know your thoughts down below, because I feel like this may be buildable to like a medium full, but I feel like for the same amount of product that I use, I get a much lighter coverage with this foundation versus the tinted moisturizer. So this is the side with and this is the side without. I mean, now that it's settled down on my face, I don't even see that much of a tone difference, even though it really seemed like it was so deep when I first put it on. Maybe just right here. You know what, before we kind of even everything out, I'm going to put another layer onto this side and just see if we can see more of a difference between the made up side and the unmade side. Okay, I think with 2 layers on, I think the foundation is very, very obvious. I don't think this shade is for me. I think, again, like it's a pretty close match to my forehead, but for the rest of my face, it doesn't just look a little bit too deep or a little bit too warm. I feel like the tone is kind of wrong. I mean, we'll go with it for the full day wear test, but I may have to go and exchange it for a different shade. Maybe I'll try the vanilla, or if I really like this foundation, maybe I'll just get the vanilla and kind of mix the two. All right, but let's continue on because I do want to find out whether or not I like this formula. It does feel really cooling on the skin though, which I really enjoy. It has been so hot here. All right, so there it is applied all over my face. I hope you guys can see how off the tone is in this foundation. And like I said, you know, even though the shade is a little bit too deep for me, you can usually make things work if it's the right tone, you know, with like bronzer and all that other stuff. But when the tone is off, it's really kind of rough. It's really hard to kind of make it look right. So we are going to try our best today. Okay, and as for formula, like I mentioned, it goes on really cooling. I love this gel formula. It feels so great on the skin. And I really like the finish of it so far. It has a very natural kind of finish. It's not matte. It's not too radiant. I just think it looks very, very natural, very skin-like. There's a little bit of radiance here on my cheeks, which I like. Again, probably because I have dry skin and I like my skin to look a little bit more healthy, a little bit more youthful. So I don't like anything too matte. So I personally really like this finish. But for me personally, I don't think this has a medium to full coverage. And you guys saw me put on like 2 layers of this. Again, I don't feel like I was being like chintzy with the application. And I still see a bit of the red around my nose. I still see a bit of the red. You guys can probably see that. Some red along my jawline. I can still see my sunspots. And I don't necessarily think that a medium to full coverage foundation would cover like sunspots like this, but I feel like it would dull them a little bit more. Like I said, I feel like the Chantecaille Just Skin Tinted Moisturizer actually has more coverage than this when you actually apply it. So I definitely feel like this is more of like a light medium coverage. Okay, as for packaging, I think this jar is very nice. It has a decent weight to it. It's very in line with Chantecaille's brand. You know, it has like the chrome finish top. But my issue is with this lid that you're not supposed to discard. It's very, very messy because there's always going to be some kind of foundation on there. It just gets very, very messy. And after using this now, I feel like the texture is loose enough that it could have been in a pump or some other kind of cleaner dispenser. I don't really know. I don't know enough about makeup manufacturing to really say like what packaging is best for whatever formula, but I do feel like this is very, very messy, and the fact that I'm not supposed to throw this out is going to really annoy me. Okay, so I've been sitting here probably 10-15 minutes since we started this application, and I wanted to make sure that it didn't start to kind of sink into lines or do anything weird. And so far, I think this is the best quality of this foundation. I mean, I like the really cooling feeling. That's really awesome. But the fact that it really does absolutely no emphasizing of the fine lines under my eyes, doesn't sink in. In fact, I feel like this foundation maybe has minimized the fine lines under my eyes because I really can't see them. Even up close, I really don't see them. So I think it's doing an amazing job with fine lines. I have some major craters here in my forehead, and those look fine too. I don't feel like they've sunken in there at all. So far so good. I'm going to go ahead and just, apply the rest of my makeup. I'm going to be really light with any other makeup just so we can kind of focus on the foundation later on in the day. So I'll plan to do a midday check-in, but if I don't have any kind of updated thoughts, I'll probably skip it, but I will definitely come back at the end of the day. I'll try and do like a 7-8 hour wear test. It is 10 o'clock right now. So what would 8 hours be? 6 o'clock. So I will definitely be back around 6 o'clock this evening to do kind of like a final check-in and show you guys where this foundation is. And like I mentioned, I'll come back and do a midday check-in if something like major has changed. So I will see you guys a little bit later. Hey guys, it is 6 o'clock in the evening, and yes, I have a different shirt on. I actually changed shirts to film a different video, and I just didn't feel like changing back. So anyway, I did a little costume change. It's not you, it's me. So I was just taking a close look at my skin, and I'm really loving this foundation. All day I was thinking, it doesn't really feel that special. Because I have dry skin, I'm used to using such like overly moisturizing foundations. I mean, overly is kind of the wrong word, but really moisturizing foundations, which I happen to like. I just like that feeling that I have like cream on my face all the time. And this really just doesn't feel like anything. So all day I don't know, I just didn't really think about it too much. I wasn't too bowled over by it, but at around 2 o'clock, I was actually running a bunch of errands today, and I was sitting in my car, and I decided, let me just take a look at my skin, see what's going on. And in terms of the formula, I think it's actually really amazing. I mean, it feels so light that I thought for sure I was going to sit down, take a look at my face, and think that it was all just kind of like worn away or faded away. It really feels like absolutely nothing is on my skin, but it is definitely still there. I do feel like I see a little bit of wearing away the tip of my nose and a little bit around my nostrils. I think you can probably see the redness around my nostrils a little bit more than upon my first application, but other than that, it looks good. And like I said, I ran 4 errands today. So I was in and out of my car. I definitely started to sweat a little bit. So I've been running around, and like I said, I was just sort of expecting this foundation to just sort of be worn away. But it has definitely held on, and held on in such an amazing way. Like, aside from this right here, I feel like it's still there. I feel like there's still coverage. I feel like it is still kind of blurring the under eyes. Remember when I first applied it, I thought, God, it did such an amazing job underneath my eyes with the fine lines. It hasn't sunken into there. It hasn't emphasized my forehead lines, which I have really deep ones. It has not sunken into my laugh lines, of which I have very deep ones as well. And even around my mouth, I feel like foundation generally fades very quickly, but it's all still there. So I'm very, very impressed with this. 8 hours, high heat, some sweating, and I think it still looks pretty good. So what I do want to mention is I put powder on this half of my face. So I actually applied the Chantecaille talc-free loose powder on this half of my face, and I really wanted to see if it was going to make any difference. Do you guys see any difference? I don't see any difference. So I don't even think this foundation is one that you need to set down. Now, I think if you're in an incredibly humid climate, I think if you're going to be out all day, like out all day, then yeah, then you're probably going to want a powder. I think I would say that for any foundation. And I only have blush. I didn't put on any bronzer. I didn't put on any highlight or anything like that. Again, I really just wanted to take a look at this foundation after like a long day. I do obviously have eye makeup on, eyeliner, mascara. Did I put brows in? Oh, I didn't put brows in, and I have some lipstick on. So I really don't have much makeup on aside from this foundation, and I still feel very finished. I still feel very polished. There's some foundations that I feel like give me really good coverage, But with more coverage, I feel like I need to put more makeup on. Otherwise, I just look, you know, you just look like a mannequin. But with this foundation, it has less coverage than I think it states. It states that it has a medium to full coverage, but I actually like the fact that it has less coverage, because then I don't feel like I need to put on all this other makeup to kind of compensate for the full coverage. And in that way, I feel like it's like really aligned with the idea of this foundation, that it's a very lightweight texture, that it's very, I mean, beyond lightweight on the skin, and that it just looks very, very perfecting. I really like this foundation, and in fact, I think I may keep this color and then get the vanilla, which again is the shade that I wear in their Just Skin Tinted Moisturizer, but I felt maybe it was a little bit too pinky on the skin, a little bit too peachy. I'm really loving this foundation, and I have to say, I really was kind of skeptical all day. I really thought I was going to look in the mirror when I did this final check-in, and it was just really not going to be there. Like, I wasn't really going to see it. Like, it just felt too light. Like, I just didn't feel any foundation on my skin. But I will definitely keep you updated with what is going on with this foundation and how I like it and what shade eventually matched me, or if I did have to like mix these two together. So that is my full day wear test for this Chantecaille Future Skin Oil-Free Gel Foundation. Really impressed. You guys were right. So many of you commented that you have this, that you absolutely love it, and that you would love to see my opinion on it. I'm not going to argue. No argument here. This is really, really wonderful. And give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. I'll see you in my next video.